The Bluesford brothers are coming to you live after having witnessed a sad Nuggets defeat, preparing for the sad end of a Broncos season, but there's hope on the horizon. Ryan and I are handing out our Nuggets grades thus far into the season and telling you why we think it'll be an A season in the end. All that and more.
Fins up.
Dan, play that funky music.
Let's go, Mike.
Welcome in to another episode of the Bluesford Brothers. I am your host, Kyle Poland, joined as always by my brother, Ryan Poland. We are produced by our super producer, Dan the Man. And we are coming to you live after the Denver Nuggets found a way to God giveth and God taketh away. God gave a 18-point comeback for the Nuggets, and God let them blow an 18-point lead to the Orlando Magic. And so there was some symmetry in that. That was beautiful. But the Avs are getting a little hot, Ryan. The Nuggets have, even with tonight, have only lost 3 out of their past 14 games. And the Broncos are mercifully coming to an end. So things are looking up for Colorado sports here. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I can't wait for the regular season to be over. Obviously excited about how the Nuggets have been playing. I was just going to look up their last 10. Let's see what it is. We're 8-2 in the last 10. Now just a game and a half back from first place in the West. So the universe is starting to feel like it's in its natural place. Jokic hit a miracle game winner last night, so they were coming off a high, and Jamal tried his best to replicate that, but fell a little short tonight. So I'm looking forward to some Stidham action this weekend as well.
I mean, it was a rough weekend for your Finns.
Yeah,
they got smoked and they lost Chubb, so feels like that's done. So I think now
they're literally playing
time
for an AFC East championship, or an NFC East championship.
No. I just mean
they're not done
like
in the sense of the Broncos being done.
Yeah, but it feels like the perfect time for you to come on home. That's what I'm saying.
No,
you can just come right on over for this last Stidham game.
I'm not going to bet on it, but I am going to ride the ship down with Mike and the Finns this season, and for foreseeable seasons as well. As long as Mike McDaniel is the coach there, I think that is where my loyalty lies, and I will trust the Broncos when they show me that they deserve to be trusted. Which, do you think that they deserve to be trusted?
I think you know my feelings on the matter. No, that is a resounding no right now. But you know what? I think sometimes, Ryan, like in Hitch, you got to go 90 so that the Broncos can come 10.
I think the Broncos need to go 90 so I can come 10.
I mean, they're a big organization.
They're courting me.
For you to move.
They're courting me. That's what I'm saying, though. I'm the lost fan in this situation. It's me who had to change. It's not them. They got to stay the same. They get to. Some of you people, you three brain-celled Broncos fans decided to stay with Russ, and you've been defending him this whole time, and look how that turned out for you. So I'm not willing to join the 3 brain cell train yet. I'm not willing to hop back on that train.
That was hurtful. I just wanted to start by saying that. Just out and out hurtful. And I didn't disagree with tons of it, but it was hurtful. All right, it was hurtful.
Sometimes the truth hurts.
Speaking of the truth, we got to see the bare naked truth of Jared Stidham, and it looked about like Russ, if not a little bit worse, when they beat Easton sticking the boys. It was hideous offense. There was obviously one play where little Humphrey,
Little Jordan Humphrey.
little Jordan Humphrey broke an unbelievable play, but like that's not replicable necessarily. And the Chargers defense is awful and was missing Bosa.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk much about that game.
It is though. I think Broncos fans were ready to cheer for anyone but Russ, and it's caused them to put on some rose-colored glasses with Stidham to be like, well, if he can do that for $7 million, now let's give him a full season, and then he'll still be making $7 million, and he'll get better. And I'll be like, except that he's Jared Stidham. Other than that, though, I agree.
What have we learned from watching 17 weeks of NFL football, if not that backup quarterbacks often come in, look a little bit better than the person they're replacing, and then plummet back to earth? Like, there are a dozen examples of that in the NFL this year, including some that I got bought in on. I was all in on the Josh Jobs train. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna replace Kirk Cousins with better Kirk Cousins. Like, yeah. But most good franchises don't just give up an asset like that. Like, the Cardinals gave up on Josh Dobbs. Like, they gave him away for essentially nothing. Like, that should tell you something about the talent. They watched him all of the, those weeks in the game and in practice. And Jarrett Stidham's only redeeming factor to this point is that the organization that he's coming from is one of the most incompetent organizations in the NFL. So if anybody is going to potentially mess up a quarterback evaluation and give him away for too little, it might be Jarrett Stidham. I don't think that's the case, but I'm just saying that if anybody was going to give him up, and he would be awesome, it would be the Raiders, and that would make everybody really happy, but I don't think that's the case. So if you're looking, this is a Brock Osweiler situation. Like, the Broncos let him walk, and the Texans paid him $56 million. So, like, have fun paying that salary for the next 10 years. Like, you can't get bought into this stuff, and certainly not in the last 2 weeks of the season. You're definitely not going to get bought in.
Yeah, I also do think that Max Crosby is going to absolutely terrorize him on Sunday, and it's going to be a very different thing because the Raiders can actually score points. Whereas there was very little pressure to score once you saw what the Chargers were bringing out there.
Did you see that video of Jarrett Stidham, or not Jarrett Stidham, who's the Gardner Minshew on the sidelines? And he goes, man, Max Crosby's mean. He keeps calling everybody little boys. Yeah, yeah, you are a little boy. But... So I am really looking forward to... I can't wait to see what Max Crosby is calling Jarrett Stidham. If he called Gardner Minshew a little boy, I don't know what it's going to be, but who's our backup? Just
Russ.
Well, no way we bring him in if Max Crosby is teeing off on Jarrett Stidham. So. The whole point of this is to not pay the guy when he gets his head blown off. Like, what are we doing? We can't bring him in against Max Crosby. I mean, who's a real backup? Like, are we just going to run Wildcat? I don't know.
Hey, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I'm just saying, yeah, that's a great point. We should just be parlaying Josh Allen and Max Crosby's sacks. We also need to, that's what this whole podcast should have been. We should have looked up every contract incentive and just come up with a massive parlay of all of the player props of, like, whatever, Gronk needs 3 receptions to make $1 million. And they're like, well, that's definitely going to happen. Like, you're going to make that happen. So anyways, there are lots of nice, fun betting angles, but I do agree that this Raiders defense could be putting it to the Broncos here.
Yeah, let's get into this Raiders game here just for a moment. Peyton has said, hey, this is a meaningful game. This can bring some momentum into the new season. Obviously, Raiders players have come out in support of Pierce, and so you figure they'll play hard. as well here. This just feels like a letdown spot for the Broncos where they just kind of let go of the rope here, and the Raiders are like, oh, we've been playing for nothing for forever.
Is Josh Jacobs playing? Do we know? Because if he is, like, they're going to gouge us on the ground. I mean, this defense has just been extremely porous, and I agree with you, except that there is a lot of hypothetical talent on the Broncos team, and it didn't really seem to coalesce last week. Like, it was not the natural bump that you see sometimes when you bench a quarterback where, like, people start getting excited and you can tell the team really hated him. And, like, there was some of that, but it wasn't enough to really make you super confident that you're going to beat a relatively decent Raiders team. So I think it's a complete stay away in outside of the player props for me. Like, maybe just take an under. But then there could be 5 fumble return touchdowns, and I wouldn't be surprised. So it's a hard game to handicap.
Yeah, no, I agree with your stay away, but if I had to,
Raiders money line,
I would go Raiders money line, and I would say 20-10 Raiders. Like, I think it's an ugly game where, like, 90% of it, you're like, well, I know we haven't done anything all game, but this could be our drive, and then it'd be tied. And then late, kind of let go of the rope. But, yeah, I think this is a Raiders victory here. So
Raiders money line is now minus 162. So you're having to pay that. I think the play here is the under. They have the total set at 37, and I mean your game script plays into that, and I think that's too many points. Like, I don't think the Raiders are getting to 20, and I don't think the Broncos are getting to 10. So I would be playing the under here.
Yeah, to your point, I think the only way I see this going over is like Max Crosby strip sacks, or them throwing the ball directly to Surtain
Special
or
teams.
Simmons. Yeah, some odd plays that are out of script. And both of these quarterbacks are more than capable of giving up those plays. But
Josh Jacobs is out, but they can run the ball with whoever. I mean, anybody has been gashing this team. So, it's an interesting one. I mean, the Raiders are not going to want to give this to anybody. So,
also, why on earth would we want to win this game? I know it's like, whatever. It's not at this point the biggest in draft position, but it still makes no sense to me to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna come in here guns blazing for this meaningless game. Like, why?
No, no, they should lose, and they should have been losing for the last 10 weeks. So, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that I've been right basically this whole time, that we just shouldn't have been trying, pretty much. So, you should have pulled Russ. You should have benched his ass and said, F you to the Players Association. Come after me. Did you watch him play? Did you watch him play for the first 5 weeks? You're going to come after me because you think I benched him because of this injury clause? All right, let's watch the tape. Let's look at his throwing chart. Let's see the big gaping hole in the middle of the field. Anyways, so let's move on. I hope they lose, and I hope it's embarrassing, honestly. I hope they get, like, shut out or some shit. Like, I hope it's just absolutely terrible, to the point where Broncos fans are starting to, like, call for Peyton's job. Like, the Waltons bought this franchise, and they're going to be the only rich people to lose money in the first 3 years of owning an NFL franchise, because they're going to have to pay Peyton out his contract, and then they're going to have to pay Russ out his contract. So it's a good thing they own Walmart.
Yeah, I don't think they can get rid of Peyton this early, but my Lord, that would be quite the hubbub. shall we say.
They can't get rid of him this early, but if he loses this game, if they got shut out, and then next year he starts terrible, if he starts 0-3 with the new quarterback, there are going to be people saying you need to get rid of this guy, and he has a lot of time left on that contract and a lot of money. So
you are correct.
It's a good thing now in Walmart.
A great thing. Well, let's move right along to, speaking of owning people, Nikola Jokic now owns the Warriors as well as the Clippers, as well as the Lakers. Just if you're in LA, know you exist because I feel like Nikola
he also
allows
gives Sabonis the business. He's got all the California teams.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, the whole state.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the fun place to start this discussion here. Where does that Jokic shot rank in some of your favorite Jokic shot moments?
Okay, well, I got to paint the picture for you. So we watched the first half together, and things were going okay. And then I listened to the third quarter in my Uber ride back to my apartment, or most of the third quarter, then took the dog out, listened to a little bit more of the third quarter, and Kaz was not optimistic about how the game was going. He literally said in the third quarter, I do not like the way this feels right now. And so I decided to give myself a night off. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make myself watch them lose on national TV to the Warriors and then have to watch TNT come on and be like, complaining. I'm just going to listen to Kaz because he's going to be as mad as I am while this is happening. And so I start taking a shower, and I'm listening to the fourth quarter in the shower, like the entire not the entire fourth quarter, but the entire crunch time of fourth quarter, the entire comeback, I'm in the shower, losing my goddamn mind. So I did see the shot live on TV. I could tell some wild shit was happening, and there were so many stops at the game in that last couple of minutes that I was able to catch the last couple of minutes on TV. But it is that Joel Embiid
Were
game.
you wearing pants?
No.
When Jokic hit the shot?
No, I was wearing only boxers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite the picture.
When the game winner of it technically wasn't a game winner, but the game winning shot against the Sixers the last time Embiid decided to drag his raggedy ass to Denver. That one I think is probably always going to be my favorite because I was sitting so close to it and got to yell at Embiid as he walked off the floor. But it's, in terms of just horseshoe in the ass shots, it's got to be number one with a bullet. But there are lots of very memorable game winners to me. And honestly, the Jokic ones are pretty down on the list. Like when he hit the shot, I immediately thought of the Monte Morris game winner in Golden State, which Malone also brought up in his press conference. That was from a similar spot. So yeah, it's probably 2 for me at this point because somebody said it on Twitter, but if he would have hit him with the sleeping after he hit that, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, that's number 1 then. Yeah. The celebration was great. I loved everything about it.
Yeah, it's I still have the over AD step back and the over LeBron step back. Those are in my pantheon of Jokic shots.
They weren't game winners though.
No. But just Jokic shots.
Yeah.
I really like the game winner over Luka and the boys. That was a good one. And then the step back 3 over Orlando last year, and to your point, the one over Philly.
That was so long ago, but that was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah.
So I feel like pretty Pretty solid list of highlights for someone who is supposedly a little bit bland and tough to market. Putting together quietly a pretty good reel out here if you're paying attention.
It's just so stupid. And I think people now are realizing how stupid it is because his highlights are starting to go a little bit more viral. It's just not a narrative that should be there because watching him play basketball, if you don't like watching a Jokic highlight of some ridiculous pass or him hitting somebody, the volleyball pass in the middle of the lane, you just don't like watching basketball. That's okay. You don't have to watch basketball. You could do something else. But that narrative is fucking ridiculous. Yeah, that's really all I had to say. 6 straight road wins too, which I think is key. It was one of the things that the championship team last year was just terrible at. They could not win, even in the regular season. They couldn't win games on the road. So it's nice to see them pick up some of these road wins. You'd like to see them pick up the back-to-back at home, which we just watched them drop to Orlando, but you can't have them all. There are a lot of games in the season. So
yeah, it was a kind of a flat off tonight. The Magic were coming in missing a lot of players. They didn't have Franz Wagner. They didn't have Markelle Fultz.
No Gary
Harris. They were missing players. We were on a back-to-back. And we got in at 4:30 in the morning. So, yes, would I have loved to see the Nuggets close out an 18-point lead? Yes, but do I understand running out of gas there and not having the deep drive to care about it? Maybe like you did in previous years because you're yeah, it's fine.
We're only a game and a half back from the Timberwolves. We're okay.
Yeah.
I want to do a little Michael Malone with you because I know you have sort of an interesting take, but I want to start with the last possession. You looked at me when they called the time or were coming out of the timeout and were like, I don't hate a 3 here. I was like, I love a 3 here. Don't go to overtime. What are we doing? Jamal gets the switch, gets the big guy on him, and then goes at the bucket. He's trying to get to the rim. I'm what are you doing? Shoot the 3. You had the switch. Shoot the 3. Or give the ball to Jokic. If you're going to take a 2, Jokic has the small guy on him. You just ran the 2-man. I didn't understand it. And I wonder, Malone does get a lot of credit for his off of a timeout, out of bounds, those sort of actions. But the one last night against the Warriors was trash.
Yeah.
That was a terrible play. He literally just
ran against OKC when we blew that one game. We were up 9.
Blissfully didn't watch a second of that.
We had Jokic inbounding the ball with a second and a half. And so it's I bet he's going to throw a lob to Gordon. And it's the only reason to not have Gordon inbound the ball. So, yeah, I agree. There've been some suspect end of game stuff.
And you just tell Jamal there, hey, man, if you get the switch, dance on him and pull up. Take one of those 3s. We don't want to play 5 more minutes. We're on a back-to-back. Let's either lose this game and, have you get a good look at it, or let's win it right here. I don't know. That would be my nit to pick. If I was going to pick nits.
No, I agree. Not about picking nits. I don't want to pick any nits.
I think you have a nit to pick.
Kind of like fleas.
I don't know. Probably.
I think a nit is like a fly, right? Lice. Oh, Lord. See, I don't want any part of nits. But
I don't think that's the reason this saying exists.
No. But I did. You are correct in terms of I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with Mike Malone. It doesn't feel
You'd rather pick at a bone than than lice?
Yeah. And McCaffrey's femur.
Oh God!
I just pick it up, touch it.
Yeah. Well,
lets me see the future.
Someday the unreleased tapes of what I had to say about Ed McCaffrey's femur will be released.
Those are locked for a reason. I will tell the viewer at home. But with Malone, I do think that in some degree he's kind of holding his cards for the playoffs as well. So it's minor, but I do think we've seen against the Warriors, and we saw tonight, he took Jokic out and tried to sneak extra rest in the first half, which I'm fine with. But then bring him back in earlier so that you can stop the bleeding. Because that second unit, if Reggie Jackson does not have it going, to have 5 out with no starter with them is awful. And before we were staggering Murray more with that lineup. And now it feels like we have Murray, Porter, and Jokic coming in almost the same time together. And that stagger just doesn't make any sense to me. Having a Porter or having a Murray with that second unit makes a lot more sense to me.
Do you think it has, and I agree with you, I think... I understand trying to steal minutes on the second night of a back-to-back, but I do agree with you that like you kind of have to choose one of them to go after. Like you can't be resting him both nights. But the thing that I literally just thought of is, do you think it's at all related to how close the trade deadline is? Like we're officially about 6 weeks from the trade deadline. Do you think he's trying to get Zeke Naji 4 more minutes a run? See if he can have a little spark here and potentially up that value a little bit, or even just get him like noticed in the league, like have some tape to send to teams to be like, are you interested in this?
You know, I don't think that Malone would play that game. I do think that he is right now trying to let Zeke win that job. And
he is experimenting more with that second unit too.
Yeah. But let me tell you, Malone is very loyal, and he will let you try your best for a long time. But when he makes the decision that he's done, and you're never coming back.
Yeah, Zeke knows too.
Yeah. So if Zeke wants to keep messing around with that role, it'll go to DJ pretty quick. Yeah. And it will then be very hard to take away from him.
It's been the interesting part, right? Because DJ did look good. Like when the Nuggets were struggling, when Jamal was out and we sort of had that streak where it was like, wasn't looking great, DJ was playing great. And then he sort of just disappeared. Like Zeke just took those minutes, and part of it's matchup dependent, right? Like the Magic tonight are very small. Like there's not a lot of minutes for DJ in that matchup because they don't have anybody over 6'10" once Wagner goes to the bench if they don't have the other Wagner. So it's an interesting dynamic, and to me, I don't think the Nuggets are going to do anything at the deadline. Like, I think it's probably going to be another stand pat sort of situation. They might do something around the margin, but I could see them being a buyout team. And that is where the centers start to become available. And I think if you look at this team and you're a center who wants to potentially earn some money, like, why are you not coming here? I mean, we made JaVale McGee 2 contracts worth of money. So come on over.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you that I think it's going to be hard for them to be super active in the trade market this year. Just the contracts they have, it's like anyone who has a good contract, you don't want to trade them. Like we don't want to trade KCP for anything almost. And so, you know, what does it matter what his salary matches up with?
No,
I'm just not messing with
You're
the
not
starting
touching,
five.
You're not touching the starters. Yeah, they're all untouchable. And the bench guys, like, it is, to your point, it's hard to make the contracts match because we've drafted so well.
Yeah,
like that's the
deals.
hard part is that you're getting rookie for rookie, and you're not willing to give up on these guys on a rookie deal yet. So
yeah, yeah. So I guess if you had to give the Nuggets a grade this far, they're, as you mentioned, game and a half back of Minnesota. They've played the highest percentage. It's been almost 50% of their games have been back-to-backs to start off here.
they have one of the easiest schedules remaining.
Correct. So taking into account everything there, what would be your grade that you would give the Nuggets thus far in the season?
If I'm going to grade on a championship curve, so like given the fact that we won a championship in whatever that was, June,
Yeah.
I would give them an A. I think this has gone about as good as you could ask. We've eaten Jamal injury. We've eaten a couple games without Jokic. We've eaten injuries to AG. We've eaten games from, I mean, almost everybody in the starting lineup has been out for some number of games, and then you've got these guys on the bench who we had turnover, right? Like, it's sort of like been an experiment to figure out who exactly can score on that bench unit, to your point. And we've had the ups and downs from Peyton Watson. We've had all sorts. Christian Brown hasn't been playing that well. We were talking about that tonight at the game. So, like, I think you can't ask for them to be in a better position. Arguably, they're in a better position right now than they were last year. So, and I wouldn't even say that's arguable. I would say that's true because I don't trust the Thunder or the Timberwolves, who are technically in front of us in the West right now. I don't trust either of them to be there at the end of the year. I don't think they can withstand what we have withstood. Honestly, I mean, the Wolves have had great health. The Thunder are a young team. A lot of those guys have never played 80 games. Chet, this is his rookie year. Like, rookies tend to slump at 30 games, and then they figure it out again about 60 games. Like, that college season is not an 82 game season. So I think while those teams are fun, and while the West to me is wide open too, like, nobody in the West scares me right now. So if we're just going to be talking about like how we've performed and relative to the rest of the league, I think it's pretty hard to give us anything less than an A.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a little greedy. I would say like B plus. I agree with you with the championship curve. I agree with you with the Jamal injury. I think that's a huge part of it. But there have been a few giveaway games where it was just mentally you weren't quite ready you kind of assumed it was over. And
we gave those games away last year though, right?
Oh, 100%. And you will over the course of 82, no matter what. I'm just saying, as of right now, I think by the end of this season, I think we will both land on an A. But what's been in front of me thus far, some of those blown games are frustrating in terms of...
I love the greediness. Yeah. I love it. Why not? Ask for perfection.
Yeah.
I'm not being disingenuous. I think that's fair. I mean, it's not like, I don't think anybody's going to look at the season and say, oh, it's been like, this has been a C. Like,
no,
come on.
No.
Then you're hot taking.
Yeah.
So
you put an inordinate amount of money on the Nuggets -9 tonight, and you're angry.
Yeah.
All right.
And you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that.
No.
Like, you should have texted us and asked.
Yeah.
No, I think it's an interesting. The interesting odds to me at this point are Jokic MVP. I think there's a real chance that he comes away with that award. However, for basically the same value, you can also get the Nuggets to win the division, which somewhat correlates to them winning the West, because the Wolves and the Thunder are both in the division and technically ahead of us right now.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, I don't trust either of them. And the Nuggets are plus 250 to win the Northwest right now. So I think there's some real value out there if you're a futures person. And I trust this Nuggets team. I think they've proven, right, that they can withstand a lot. So I'm excited to see this ass whooping on my birthday on Sunday.
That's going to be a beautiful thing. I did, last thing maybe here on the pod is with this, kind of trust that you talk about and overcoming, does this too big help against Jokic? And it feels like more teams are just hard doubling as quick as they can, leaving Jamal and Porter open and saying, if we can get you to stop playing through Jokic and start having other guys think, oh, I'm open now, I can do it, I gotta, it's better off in the long run. Are you concerned about that? Because it does feel like, and part of it's Jamal's coming back, we're getting into a rhythm. It's been a while since there's been a full season, but there does feel like there's stretches where you go, oh, why haven't we just posted Jokic up? He's being guarded by someone worse, and they're going to have to go double team. And we can just play from 4-on-3 if we just give him the ball with 18 seconds left and let him dribble once towards the basket.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about it long term. Like, I don't think that people can do that in a playoff series against Jokic. You can do that a night, and you might confuse him, and you might send the double from a weird place, or some might be off that night and miss some threes, or Jamal, isn't hitting his mid-range or whatever. But like, over a big enough sample size, Jokic is going to fuck you up. Because he's the best player in the world. So
no, I agree with that. I'm just saying, are there too many stretches now where we're like, there's something healthy about not being totally Jokic centric, but also,
it's
you think
annoying. We're just going away from him too much.
Yeah, like and I don't necessarily hate the plays or hate the shots that result from them, but it's kind of like hey, let's just put this pressure on teams 4-on-3 every possession.
That has to come from Malone, though. Like, that could be your nit to pick. Yeah. Because Jokic isn't ever going to yell at Mike or yell at Jamal and be like, hey, motherfucker, like, give me the ball. Like, He's not going to do that. So, it does have to probably come from somebody else to be like, hey, let's make sure that Jokic gets a touch on this possession. Like, whoever that is, if that needs to be DJ or, it could be from a lot of people, but it is a little bit concerning. Yeah, of course. Like, you want your best player in the actions all the time. I mean, I was yelling at it for the fourth quarter, but I also had him over 6.5, but it also is so easy when he gets the ball. It's just like everything moves. So he is like a planet. It is, everything orbits around him. So there shouldn't be a possession he's on the floor that he doesn't touch the ball. Has always and will continue to be my theory on that. Yeah.
So something to keep an eye on. Like I said, we're just monitoring the temperature of it right now. We're not overreacting. It's not boiling over, but we're monitoring it.
I would like him to take more than 6 shots. He's had some alarming field goal attempt numbers in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's he's obviously more than happy to give up all the shots, but
he also did only miss before tonight, where I think he missed 3 shots or maybe 4, but before tonight, he had only missed 5 shots in 4 games.
Yeah.
He was shooting 89% from the field. So, I mean, we're talking about like
no, that's what we're saying.
Just
get our guy the ball.
Yeah. Well, why is that number? Yeah. Like, you really should be shooting 75%. If you're shooting 88%, like you need to put more shots up. You have to. That's a requirement. So
no. But it definitely feels like Jokic is still in cruise control, and he hasn't turned it up. Like, randomly, that Chicago game here, he was like insanely, or it was Brooklyn. He was insanely active on defense and just gave him the business. Brooklyn. I have no idea what they did to him, but
it's been years too. I have that triple-double card I have from him is from a perfect triple-double I think he recorded against the Nets.
Yeah. But we haven't seen the like Jokic from the playoffs or like anything close to even some of the intensity we saw last season, regular season. He hasn't had a game where he's come in and been like, all right, we're winning this game. And that gives me hope for the season, like I said, to end in an A, as long as we play through the big fella. And I think everything else comes easy off of that.
I think that is really why I'm giving them an A. Because at this point of the year last year, we felt like, okay, like it felt a little tenuous, honestly. Like we were winning potentially the same amount of games or even more, but like it was like, oh God, it feels like we're fighting this a little bit, and it still feels like we're fighting it, but there's just this innate trust that's like, well, it doesn't really matter. What I hope doesn't happen is that same 20-game swoon towards the end of the year.
Like we won't be able to afford that.
After the All-Star break, you can't do that. And it wasn't even really like we lost that much ground, you know. That really happened because we had the 1 seed basically locked up.
Yeah.
But so it's a little bit different of a situation this year as well. But I think we potentially have the opportunity to send 3 Nuggets to the All-Star game. And then I think we have the opportunity to build into the playoffs as opposed to everybody feeling like we're limping. It didn't feel like that to us, but
right.
I think there's some good opportunities to be looking really good, and that's another reason why I think Jokic's MVP case is just going to continue to get better.
I mean, we know he's not going anywhere, and we know that Joel Embiid won't play against anyone who's actually good. So he might not make the game requirement.
And if Joel Embiid keeps averaging 12 free throws a game, I mean, like, we just have to throw out these points per game stats. Like, you can't...
The sanctity of the game.
You can't compare it, you know? I can't wait to see what Steve Kerr says after the Warriors play the 76ers.
It's going to be disgusting. Disgusting. So, the Nuggets, overall, in a good place. McKinnon... I know we didn't talk a lot of Avs, but that guy's been losing his mind.
He's still minus 115. I was looking at it before the podcast. He's minus 115 to score a goal tomorrow. That might just be, I mean, what are we talking about? Like, the guy's automatic at this point. He's been awesome.
Yeah. Minor setback in CU basketball. They caught a beating on the road in Arizona, but you know what? Sometimes you got to get knocked down so you can learn to get back up.
It's AG's alma mater, so it doesn't count as a loss.
That's correct. So it's a time of transition in the Colorado sports scene. Much more Avs and Nuggets coming your way.
I can't wait to talk about the Broncos offseason.
Broncos. We are headed to another offseason after this week. And
do you think we can become a United Finns playoff podcast?
No.
Can you root for them in the playoffs? They're at this point, they're sort of a fun underdog. They're like a plucky underdog. I mean, they're so hurt. Like, there's no fucking way.
Probably root for them against anyone in the AFC. Yeah. Who's in the playoffs?
Great. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Fins up, baby. Let's go.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. That's where I draw the line. But Thank you for listening.
Next week, once they have the matchup. When they're playing the Chiefs, you'll be fins upping.
I'll be Chiefs downing. That's what I'll be doing. On that note, that is our episode for the week. Please rate and subscribe and give us a follow on Twitter, Blues for Brothers. And we will talk to you next week.
And the TikToks. Fins up.
Bye.